Hey y'all, I am in the kitchen today and I am going to be canning some crushed tomatoes that were gifted to me. Tommy and I use a lot of tomatoes in the dishes that we cook, so I like to have some on hand at all times. It's a very easy process, so let's get started. So the first thing I do is I wash my tomatoes in some water with some apple cider vinegar. Now that I have washed them, I'm going to core them with my little paring knife. I'm going to do all of them. Be careful not to cut all the way through and slice your hand. Cut off anything bad like this. Don't want anything like that. They do sell little gadgets for doing this, for coring your tomatoes, but I'm not really a gadget person. Don't really have space in my house for a bunch of gadgets. We live in a very small cottage. All that off at one time. All right. Now that they're cored, I'm going to quarter them, depending on the size. Some of them I'm going to cut even smaller so that they will fit into my food processor. You're going to notice I am not peeling these tomatoes. Some people do. And I'll do another video on that later, but for crushed tomatoes, I don't bother. All right. I'll do the rest in a minute because it can only fit so many in the food processor at a time. Be sure and check it to see if there's any big chunks in there that you might need to cut up. Go ahead and cut those into smaller pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of these tomatoes and I'll be back. In the meantime, I do have my jars in my pot, getting them heated up. Okay, I now have it in a saucepan and I'm going to bring this to a boil over medium heat. I'll be back when it's boiling. Okay, now that it is boiling, I'm going to set my timer for 5 minutes and let it boil for 5 minutes. Okay, now that it's been 5 minutes, I'm going to ladle it into some hot jars, leaving a 1/2 inch headspace. Pretty sure most of my juice just went into this jar, so I'm going to pour some juice into this one. don't have enough for another jar. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in here and I can make a sauce with it. If you put too much, you can take some out. I'm going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice per pint. You can do this before or after you put your tomatoes in the jar, it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to add a half teaspoon of salt to each jar. I'm using kosher salt. Now I'm going to wipe around the rim with some vinegar. Make sure you get them very clean so that your jars seal. Now I'm going to put my lids and rings on, finger tight. Now I'm going to put them in a water bath canner for 35 minutes. Once it starts to boil, then I will set my timer for 35 minutes. Make sure there's at least an inch of water over the top of your jars. After 35 minutes, you can take them out and put them on your towel and let them cool. There you go. That's all there is to it. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe.